Welcome back to strategic management class. We are now in this class going to discuss about the contemporary strategic issues. In previous class, you learned about the quality management, different types of quality management organization uses to improve the quality, something like a benchmarking, total quality management. So these kind of things we discussed and Six Sigma. Now in today's class, we are going to discuss about the contemporary strategic issues which many organizations are facing. So the common issues are like uncertainty, globalization, innovation, government policies and regulations, technology, complexity, supply chain, information overload, and diversity. These are some of the very common contemporary strategic issues which majority of the organizations are facing. We will discuss one by one. The first one is uncertainty. All human beings, business leaders in particular, find great discomfort in uncertainty because, as we all know, what is going to happen in future is uncertain. That's for general one. But in business environment, it's quite complex actually. Uncertainty in the global economy, uncertainty in the credit markets, uncertainty in how new regulations will affect business, uncertainty about what competitors are doing, and uncertainty about how new technology will affect the business. These are just the start of a never ending list. So as we just saw, in terms of business environment, so many things like a global economy, then the credit market, then government rules and regulations, everything is uncertain. So to minimize the chances of unpredictable setback in the uncertain environment, companies need to make some changes to their typical strategies. So the issue is that when they come up with the strategies, when things changes because the future is uncertain, so the management need to take a right action and be flexible so that they can adjust their strategies according to the changing business environment. So that is one of the solution. Then we move on to the second one, which is globalization. So, as you all know, globalization is something which we cannot avoid in this world, in this contemporary business environment. So, this is a process by which businesses or other organizations develop international influence or start operating on international scale. So, as we all know, our businesses get threats from the companies which are coming outside our country. Same way, it is also giving us a way, a platform for us to expand outside this region or outside the country. So again, the only thing is that the organization need to be prepared to go global. So here we see some of the issues, strategic issues in terms of globalization. First one is exploitation. So American companies have been known to use cheap foreign labors to make cheap American goods. So what happens? Americans, since they have access and they have a bigger economy of scale, so they what they do, they use the cheap labor, foreign labor. Then what happens and may create cheap goods, and then in the name of Americanization, they try to sell, export to everywhere. So high investment cost. Yes, of course, when we go, outside our country, when we take our operation outside the country and go to other country, definitely the investment costs are very high. Not every business can do that. Then confusing local systems. When we go outside our region or country, what happens? Definitely, the organization may not be very familiar with the local systems in other countries and rules and regulations, weak regulations. So the rules and regulations in other countries may not be, more than weak, it may not be suitable for our culture. So what happens? We end up in having some issues with that. Immigration challenges. Again, if we go outside, we expect some of our people own people to be there in managing the operation, at least a few of them. So in that case, I mean, it is easy for the multinational companies from US UK to come over here, but it is from our part it's little bit challenging. It poses a big threat for our people to get the immigration visa and other sort of immigration issues. Then localized job loss. So what happens, this when other companies come over here, so what happens, I mean, they send their own people, so the local people here have the problem of issue of I mean, losing their jobs. So these are some of the strategic issues in the contemporary scenario due to globalization. Then we move to the next one, innovation. So innovation, as you know, is a company coming up with a new product or new services, and also coming up with the new processes. Okay, so all this comes under innovation. So one of the most important elements of taking an organization from an emerging newcomer to an established brand is a company's innovation strategy. So what happen if organization may be a smaller one, not so big brand, not an established brand, but innovation will help them to establish themselves in the ever changing market. Constant innovation enable business to remain constantly proactive rather than reactive. So if a company keep on investing in R&D and innovates products and services, so it helps them to be proactive rather than the reactive. So this is a main advantages of being innovative. Now we see what are the issues, strategic issues company face in terms of innovation. So employees are not motivated or empowered. This is one of the major issue. A number of managers strongly believe that innovation will prove to be more of hindrance than help in the company. So this is a perception of the manager. They think that innovation when introduced in the company will give a lot of headache to their staff members in terms of day-to-day operations. Okay, I mean, that's the way they perception they have. This is why the reason they think like that, because they're fearing that innovation will distract them from the daily duties. So in core it will the I mean, the idea of innovation, okay, will create what you say havoc among the employees, and this will affect the day-to-day operations. So the employees may not perform the duties properly. So as a result, employees are not empowered to innovate. So what happens? They will give some restrictions. Manager will restrict the employees, and they will not empower. When there is no empowerment of the employees, then it will be an hindrance to the innovations. So employees need freedom to take risk or try new ideas, but internal innovation cannot be accomplished without the support of managers and other leadership. So what happens if there is no freedom, and there is no, they don't allow their employees to take risk, there won't be any new ideas, and innovation cannot happen internally. So this should be happen only with the full support from the managers and the top management leadership. That's a one major issue. Then lack of collaboration. The key to innovation is collaboration, both internally and externally. Customers, industry partners, and competitors can call all be put to use the drive companies' innovation forward in the industry. So what happened? Like collaboration is a very important one, and the collaboration internally and externally. So they have to, organization have to have collaboration with the industry partners, and the competitors. I mean, the competitor companies, they can have collaboration, and this will help them like resources sharing, and this will help. And this is not every company policies, or every company situation will allow them to have these collaborations with their industry partners and competitors. So that is another issue. And all we can also need the R&D. It's not mentioned there, but always investment on R&D is quite expensive. That not all the company can do. The only solution for that is the small companies can have collaboration with big companies. Thereby, it is possible for them to invest in R&D. The next one is the most important one is the government policies and regulations. A changing regulatory environment is always of concern in certain industries, but uncertain energy, environmental and financial policy is complicating the decision making for nearly all companies today. So what happens? Government rules and regulations might be changing, and it is a most concern, a big concern for the organizations in some industry. Okay, but uncertain energy, the raw materials or environment and financial financial policy is also very complication for the managers to take decision in today's competitive world. So unstable political system present challenges that jeopardize the ability of government to maintain law and order, and this has negative impact on the business environment. So what happens again when we take government policies and regulations, it directly is related to the political system. If a political system is unstable, then it will be a major hindrance for the ability of the government to maintain the law and order, and this indirectly affect the business environment. For example, trade regulations, the federal minimum wage and the requirements for permits or license have effect on the business strategy. So if a government, so for a businesses, a government has to be stable. Unstable political system will give pose lot of challenges for them in terms of trade regulations, minimum wages, central government minimum wages, and permits and license. Okay, so this is a major issue with the strategy contemporary environment. Then technology. The pace of technological improvement is running at a exponentially increasing rate. While this has been true for several decades, the pace today makes capital investment in technology as much an asset as handicap, because a competitor may wait for next generation technology, which may be only a year away, and then use it to achieve an advantage. Again, technological improvement is good for business, but the pay, and it has been happening like this like several decades. But now when you look at the contemporary scenario, what is happening, the pace is very very fast. So what happens, uh, companies are now having a second thought to do a big investment in terms of acquiring a technology. So what was considered a latest technology was considered to be a big asset for a company few years back, now may be posing a threat, because the competitor will wait for the just a few months, and then they go for the next one, and then when they go for the next technology, they have a competitive advantage to this company. So that is a big advantage. So the technology is not a problem, but the pace of technological changes or improvement is creating or posing a big threat for organizations to, because the technology is not a very little bit of money, it's a very expensive. So when a company invests on very advanced technology, what happens if it changes like within few months or year, then what happens, their money will go waste, because the competitor will buy the recent one, and then they take over this company in terms of technology. So that is a big issue. Then sixth one is a complexity. There is no doubt that life and business will get more complex. Even a certain tasks and activities have become easier due to information technologies. The global economy is becoming still more connected, creating a much larger and more diverse population of customers and suppliers. Manufacturing and services are increasingly targeted at smaller, specialized markets due to the flexibility that IT provides in these areas. The 3D printing revolution is a perfect example. So, what happens with the life and the technology become this thing, life is getting more complex. Okay, so what happens, more the complex means things keep changing, then organizations are very difficult to follow this paces. So the classic example given is that the 3D printing revolution is a example for this one, to understand the complexity of the business environment. Then supply chain. Because of uncertain in demand and the need of to stay lean, companies are carrying smaller inventories than ever. At the same time, uncertainty in supply driven by widely changing commodity prices, an apparent increase in weather-related disruptions and increase in competitions for raw materials make supply chain planning more challenging than ever. Supply chain, as you know, is includes all the distribution channels which are involved in taking the manufactured good from the producer to the hands of the customer. Now in this contemporary environment, what is the issue is that I mean the inventories are getting smaller because things are very uncertain, because the supply and demand, okay, that's become very uncertain, and the commodity prices are like changing, I mean very often. And then what happens, the weather related issues or disruptions are happening, and there is an increasing competition because there is a lack of raw material. So what is it, there is an increasing competition to acquire the raw materials. So these are the big threats to the supply chain planning. Okay, then this is happening than ever. Okay, these challenges are issues are I mean more than like a previous time. Then information overload. Information overload in the workplace is a term used to describe the overwhelming data employees are dealing with in their daily jobs and extensive amount of irrelevant information from flowing among employees. So what happens, the meaning of information overload is that now employees are being exposed to too much of information, one, and second thing is the irrelevant information. So that is the essence of information overload. Basically, information overload is strongly connected with too much information shared in the workplace, irrelevant information exchanged at work. So too much information is also not very good. People need some time to I mean to go through the information, and too much irrelevant is also like confusing, I mean consuming the time, confusing the people. A lack of alignment between all the discussions going on at the same time in the workplace, not enough time given to employees to process the information they receive. So what happens, time constraint is a big issue. So when you want to access the information, so much of information, they should be given enough time. So a lack of alignment and strategic vision in the workplace, and the last one is there is no alignment between the strategic vision and the information at the workplace. So these are some of the common issues. So information overload affects employees. Now we see how it affects the employees. Okay, it affects the employees' health and well-being. They feel stressed out and anxious, and because they are going through more irrelevant and more even relevant also, more information, so too much of information. So what happens, and they have shortage of time, time constant. So all this together make them very unhealthy and affects their well-being. They become very stressed and they become very anxious. It lowers the employee productivity because the timing is consumed to go through the information. So it reduces the employee productivity, employee satisfaction, workplace collaboration. So also it is I mean bothering affecting their work satisfaction, employee satisfaction, workplace collaboration, and reduces innovation and agility. So their power, employees power is reduced, and their tendency to innovate is also reduced. So these some of the impacts of information overload. Then we see the last one, which is diversity. So diversity brings many challenges as it makes it far more likely that people do not agree, and the lack of agreement makes running a business very difficult. So diversity, as you know, the meaning is diversity means I mean different population at a workplace. It may be like differences in the age group, generation gap, then people of different gender, okay, and then people from different background, like racial, religious background, ethnic background. So this is the diverse. So the first one is acceptance and respect. A fundamental value that contributes to a successful diversified workplace is a respect among the workers and employees, and it is a big pose. It is posing a big challenge. Then accommodation of beliefs. Employees need to be reminded that they should not impose their beliefs on others to prevent arguments and disputes. So, according to the culture, people perception and belief will be different. So, a person of one culture may not try to, what do you say, try to impose his belief in others. That's wrong. Ethnic and cultural differences. Some individuals who hold prejudice against people who have different ethnic, cultural, and religious background as their own. Again, that is a big issue. Gender equality. Companies usually will hire men over men, and men are more likely to be promoted to a managerial position than women. Still, there is an inequality between the gender. Okay, whereas company usually, that's a perception perception in the mind of the people, that company prefer to hire men over women, and even they, in terms of promotion also, men has got more chances of getting a promotion than a female counterpart. So these are the issues with the gender equality. And generation gaps. Employees from one generation may have difficulties adapting to changes in the workplace and the work culture that the younger generation are bringing about. So there is a one generation to another generation, there is a, difficulties in adapting the changes. So this is posing a big threat to the organizations. Then the last one, language and communication. Language and communication barriers are ever present in companies with a diverse workforce, because managers, when they try to say something, okay, the language may not be known by their subordinates, so this is affect their productivity, and then what do you say, and it is creating a narrow gap between the management and the workers. So language and communication pose a big threat in a diverse workforce. So these are the contemporary strategic issues which many organizations are facing. So we have finished the unit 5, and with this strategic management class. Okay, thank you.